Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Jazz Education Network webinar. My name is Jesse Nolan, and I'm the Membership and Marketing Manager for the Jazz Education Network. Today, we have a really informative and pertinent topic to discuss. This session, is called Access to Title IV-A and C.A.R.E.S Act funds, and it is presented by David Jewell and Heather Mansell of Yamaha. David is a Partnership and Alliances Manager for Yamaha, and Heather is the Marketing Manager for Education. Before I turn it over to them, I want to thank you all for tuning in, for watching these webinars as we've been presenting them, and to remind you that we'd really love to have you join the Jazz Education Network, join our community. You've received some promo codes to join our organization. Please check us out on the web at jazzednet.org. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to David Jewell and Heather Mansell to present access to Title IV-A and C.A.R.E.S Act funding to build a stronger music program. David.
As you would say, rock on, but we're going to go jazz on, right?
Swing on.
Swing on, yeah.
There we go.
All right. So, hey, Heather, I'm just going to welcome everybody, and hopefully this is maybe one of your last webinars before the Memorial Day weekend, and we really hope that it's informative for you. If you have questions throughout, chime in, and we'll do our best to answer them. So.
Sounds good. Hi, everybody. We just wanted to say up front that most of Title IV-A is aimed at K-12 educators. So that's really the recipient of Title IV-A. But we know that there's probably a lot of higher ed people listening in, and we just wanted to highlight a few points for the higher ed listeners as well. This is important for higher ed because you definitely want to learn about what's happening to your feeder schools and programs. And also, this is really, really important information for music ed students and future music educators. We're also going to show you where to get data and information about how music programs are funded. We'll also touch briefly on the C.A.R.E.S Act and the higher education component of that. So let's get rolling.
All right.
This is me. I'm Heather Mansell. I do play the violin. I went to public music school programs and have continued playing ever since I was a child. I'm very, very passionate about music education, and I'm really, really happy to be in my role at Yamaha, which is the marketing manager for education. So what that actually means, and David can move the slide forward. So we have a top goal at Yamaha to create new music makers, and so our team is focused on professional development. We're focused on resources and services. We're focused on partnerships like with GEN, NAM, NAFME, MFA, and many others. We're obviously focused on setting the standard with musical instruments and creating innovative products that bring more people into music like the Vinova, and even reaching more people through products like the disc clavier and other instruments like that. And we're also very, very focused on advocacy. Here we are talking about advocacy and how to empower you to advocate for your programs and start those conversations with your administration.
All right, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Dave Jewell. So I am from Wisconsin. Actually grew up pretty much in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Julie, if you're on the call, you're going to get a smile on your face over that one. But went to University of Wisconsin, got a major in marketing and management, but I was involved in a lot of performance groups there. I marched under Mike LaCrone, who was the director there for over 50 years, studied under Richard Davis, Jim Latimer, Alan Dawson, got my master's at Louisiana Tech University in percussion performance, and played professionally and worked in the music store for 14 years in Arizona. I've been with Yamaha now for 22 years. I was over Yamaha drums for about 16, 17 years, and now I am in the brand division, partnerships and alliances, but more importantly, I oversee the government relations for our company, and last but not least, I oversee Yamaha C.A.R.E.S, which is our philanthropic arm of the company. So, Heather, you want to jump in here?
Sure. We're going to talk about ESSA. So for those that don't know, ESSA stands for the Every Student Succeeds Act. It's currently funded at $1.16 billion. And authorized at 1.6. So that means it's not funded fully. And that is the reason why on our side, we go out and work with our partners to advocate for that funding. And maybe Dave, you can speak to that a little bit as well.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this bill came into play. It was signed by then President Obama in December of 2015. And I'd been going to Washington, D.C. for the last 9 years, did not go this year. Actually, would have been on the Hill yesterday advocating to get this fully funded to the authorized $1.6 billion, but because of COVID-19, that did not happen. But had been working to redo the education bill for that long. And our goal was to get music to be part of a well-rounded child's education. And the word well-rounded actually came from NAM and our organization and our advocacy, and that was put in the bill. The great thing and the win for us that believe in music education and the impact it has on a child's education is that as part of that well-rounded education, for the first time ever in a bill, music and arts are called out as two standalone subjects that make a child's well-rounded education. Never happened before. So this was a huge milestone for us. And when it was ESEA before, the federal government ran all the money and oversaw this. Now the states were saying, hey, we want more control. Our state does this, our state does that. So in ESSA, the states have the control over how these funds are used and what they're doing. So that's what so it's a little bit segmented because we have 50 states, but that's what we're going to kind of get into and give you a little bit of knowledge on what's going on with this bill. But it was a huge win for us that believe in music education when this had passed. Go ahead.
Absolutely. And I always thought an interesting historical note about the very original ESEA in 1964 was all about access and creating, it was from the civil rights movement. So this is all about creating access for all students under this law.
Yeah.
So my question to everybody is, what does advocacy or advocating mean to you as a music teacher? Normally we would do this in person somewhere like the Midwest Clinic, but here we are online. And basically what this means is how to take action and control. You know, as teachers, I know it's really difficult, and talking to your administration isn't always the easiest thing, but knowledge is a lot. When you have knowledge, you have a lot of power. So we're just here to help share information about what's available to you as a music teacher, what's available to districts, what's available at the state level. So we're going to get into that. Title IV-A basically goes into three areas. It goes into well-rounded education that Dave just explained that calls out music specifically. It also deals with art, health education, physical education, career and technical education, CTE, you might have heard of that. So that all fits into a well-rounded education. That's kind of the first layer of this law. Number two is safe and healthy schools. Safe and healthy schools is mental health service, violence prevention, and things of that nature. And then technology. So this was always a very broad area. It includes instructional support, professional development, digital devices, online learning, which, you know, obviously has a huge spotlight on it now in the current situation. But this was always built into the bill. There is a little asterisk on this. Dave, you can move the slide ahead that we'll get to about how this current situation and the current Department of Education has lifted the technology cap requirement, but I'll explain that in a second. So you can kind of see on this slide here what this graphic explains. And we got this graphic from the Title IV-A Coalition. That's its own group that leads the lobby. They really have all the good information out there. You can get graphics to start the conversations with your administration. But, you know, just pointing out again that this music is specifically part of a well-rounded education, so that when you're putting together an ask or you're doing a needs assessment, you can ask for funding that supports music, and it's not just lumped into the arts, it's specifically music. So this is a really important thing to know. This is a really important part of the conversation and the language that you use. Technology includes equipment, programs, and anything related to music. So it's not just computers, but you can also build technology into a music plan and ask. So that's anything from music notation software to licenses to online learning, and anything that's related to music programs that is in the technology space. And there's a lot of things. That could be a music lab, that could be a piano lab, or anything that's in technology category.
And let me one of the things as well in well-rounded education, so there's not all of the subjects are in there on this slide. There are a total of 17 subjects that are called out in the bill as part of a child's well-rounded education. And you as a music advocate and believer in music education, and there's study after study after study saying if a child is involved in music, their math scores are better, their science scores, everything, truancy goes down in schools. Whoever's on the call, if you're on the call, there are studies after study on this. So it's even more important to call out the importance of music, because if everybody else has a louder voice out there, they may get the funding. So you have to be front and center and have your voice heard. Just wanted to make you aware.
That's why we want to speak directly to music teachers and say, you can stand up and be heard about your program because it fits this law and it fits this bill.
Yep. Okay, so I'll just touch on this. So this is a development, obviously, that we've had since COVID-19, and the U.S. Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, that Heather mentioned earlier, did put a waiver on Title IV-A funds so that more could be put to technology. So there's talk about hotspots for schools, kids to get iPads and different things to be able to work remotely. We get that, on that. Our thought is that waiver does not, our hope is that runs for just this year, but it does not continue year after year, that we can get back to where we can use the money towards music education. So the C.A.R.E.S Act specifically is a one-time bill. And, Heather, you're a little more familiar with this. Do you want to go into that? And then I'll go into the last part about higher education.
Yeah. The C.A.R.E.S Act is a one-time funding opportunity, and you have to apply for it. And the deadline is July 1st. So it's coming right up. C.A.R.E.S Act and Title IV are two completely separate funding streams. So that's one thing we want to make very clear, is that if you're working on a Title IV-A plan for your school, for your district, you can double down on it and also apply for C.A.R.E.S Act, and they don't compete with each other. They're completely different pots of money, so to speak.
Right.
So you could literally expand what you're doing by applying for both. And the Title IV is something that you can do year over year, and the intention of this kind of funding is to start and expand and strengthen programs where there are needs. So it's really good to do your needs assessment anyway, and then you can also apply that to a C.A.R.E.S Act application.
Yeah. And we found out on this, because I wanted to do some research for a friend of mine, is that in the C.A.R.E.S Act, because it kept on talking about public and non-public schools in the language, and we did find out that religious schools that are nonprofits can get money through the C.A.R.E.S Act. Unfortunately, they cannot get money through the Title IV-A. That is for public school education, K through 12. Charter schools fall into that. But the C.A.R.E.S Act does open it up to, private schools, religious schools that are nonprofits. The last thing as part of this C.A.R.E.S Act, which is very important for a lot of higher education, for universities specifically, is that part of it, there's $14 billion in the C.A.R.E.S Act that's called the Higher Education Emergency Relief Fund. That is broken down into about 8 different segments that you could apply the money towards, specifically to student grants. It would go to historically Black universities, to Native American universities, and on and on. There's 8 different categories that you can get information on, that you can apply this one-time grant, as Heather said, for your school because of the disruption you've had because of COVID-19.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so please talk to your administrators. talk to your fellow teachers and try and come together about what your ask for the CARES Act might be, in addition to how you might want to look at the Title IV, because they can pretty much look the same. Yeah. Although the CARES Act is a lot more broad as far as what it covers. Title IV kind of puts you in a stream that, as we outlined earlier.
And just remember, Title IV-A is for K through 12, public school education. The CARES Act, there are programs in there for higher, like university level institutions. So, all right. So we just wanted to touch base on that. So now we're going to get back. Heather's going to go into this because Title IV-A and ESSA is a year after year after year program. So
yes. So there's 2 tiers to looking at the funding. If you're a district that or a school that is looking at something small, an ask that would be below $30,000, you do not formally have to do an assessment. You can spend funds in any of the 3 categories, but I believe that there's still a cap on the technology for these lower ones. I'm not 100% sure. But most asks are over $30,000, and you need to do a needs assessment. And in the article that we're going to share with you, we'll show you there's lots of examples of what that looks like, so you don't have to start from scratch. Our friends at NAFME and the NAM Foundation have provided examples through their website, and they're continuously asking for information from successful recipients of Title IV-A funding to share. So we'll make sure that you have those links. But if your grant is over that's not a grant. If your ask is over $30,000, then on a normal year, 20% of the funds go to well-rounded program needs. So that's where the music is specifically called out. 20% go to safe and healthy schools programs like the mental health, that kind of thing. And 60% go to all 3 areas, with some going to technology.
So in a normal year before COVID-19, theoretically 20%, that first 20% could go to music. And of the 60%, if 15% goes to technology, theoretically you could use 45% of the funds back to a well-rounded music education if you did a proper needs assessment and your administration was bought in that music education does have an impact and positively on our child's education at the school. So it can be up to 65% of that. So I am going to, I just wanted to show everybody for a second, just a screen here of, let me just move this up a little bit. This is actually real dollars that were received in the year 2018 and 2019 as far as part of the Title IV-A bill. And basically, a gentleman named Steve Venz, who now works for Little Kids Rock, was in charge of the Orange County Arts District over all the schools there. And he knew what to do. And he got it done. And you can look at like Nevada County, you can look here, see a school got 10,000, 15, 0, 10, 10, 10. Now all of a sudden you come into schools from Orange County because Steve knew how to work the system and how to apply for these grants. 210,000, 423 went to the Anaheim Elementary School District, who I work with a lot. Almost 600,000 to the Anaheim Union. On and on. You can just go down here and you can see where Orange County got a hefty amount of money. Santa Ana Unified, $1.2 million. So a lot of, again, it's just, I wanted to show you these numbers just so that you could basically see it's real dollars coming in. And if you know what you're doing, you can access those funds. So anyway, I just wanted to show some, and if anybody wants, after this, we have this data for all 50 states. So you can see what your state received in funding. And we were on a call a while ago and somebody said, well, wait a second, my district got all $2.6 million. I didn't even know about it. And I'm going, well, that's why we're talking about it now, so that you can go to your administrators and go, we received this money. where did it go? They may say, well, the theater department did a needs assessment and it's all going there. Okay, that just tells me as our district that we need to do a needs assessment if you want to improve your music program. So anyway, that's that. I will go back into presentation mode for funding ideas.
Okay, well, some of this seems pretty obvious, but we're just going to outline it for you. So examples of Title IV-A funding are things like teacher professional development, such as clinics, in-service, workshops. You know, at Yamaha, we have a big clinic program, and we love to be able to bring great clinicians out for educators and for students. Musical equipment, such as strings, band, percussion, keyboards, obviously. Adding or expanding music courses. Maybe you already have a program, but they're, in your needs assessment, it looks like you could really do a guitar program to reach even more students. Piano lab, modern band, mariachi, kind of looking at your district, looking at the needs of your students, what makes sense for you? How do you expand your programs? Supplies and textbooks like sheet music, stands, accessories, technology programs, music notation software, audio editing, audio and listening equipment. And obviously that is even more important now than ever to have good quality sound as an educator and having your students experience the best sound that you can produce from wherever you're teaching. Also facilities upgrades, acoustic panel storage units. Again, that might be for a little bit further down the road, but we always want to be looking forward with where you're going to be in a year from now.
Yep.
So how do you start? It really starts with a needs assessment. So this is talking to your fellow teachers, talk to your fellow music teachers, and talking with your principal, the district coordinators, and your state education coordinator. You want to find who your state Title IV coordinator is. I believe that there is one for every state, and you can find this usually through the government website. We're going to send a link on our site where you can get started with finding out kind of the chain of how you're going to talk to these individuals. And keep going. This is a year-over-year program. If you don't have success in your first year, that's okay. Just keep going back to the table and figure out what it is you need to put into your ask and make sure that it is laddering up to the requirements that are in Title IV-A. So that's what we're trying to help you do here today, is just connect the dots and to keep going forward.
Yeah. I mean, an important part here is collaboration. Within a school district, if there's 7 or 8 music teachers or teachers there, get together with all of them, come together on a plan that makes sense for everybody. And then as you go as a team, get your principal's buy-in. Then you go to the district and say, here's our needs assessment. We believe that this is going to help our school and improve our school by doing this program. So if you go there in mass a little bit, it's gonna make a difference on that. So
yeah, I want to also we haven't talked about it much, but the whole notion of social and emotional learning is a very big topic right now, and this is where music fits in. Music fits into the social and emotional development of every student. So if that's language that you want to and need to use in your needs assessment and in your ask, then please do, because I think that's a really important thing that administrators are also looking at.
Yeah, I mean, Heather, it's a great point, and for something like that, because kids are going to come back in a little bit confused, and music is something that can definitely ground them and give them put a smile on their face and kind of bring it back to normal a little bit. Mm-hmm. So this is really some important stuff here that everybody on this call should do some research on. There's a gentleman I'd known for a long time. His name's Bob Morrison, and he started this data arts project. And right now he covers about he covers 22 of the 50 states. He's been getting data from California now for 6 years. So I'm just going to kind of go into this for a second and show you. So this is the Data Arts Project website right here. Incredible information, and it talks about what educators are saying and everything like that. You can go to your state and you can see the green states here are the ones that they do have data on. And this data, what's really important about this is a great start to use this data for your needs assessment. You may have a school that may be challenging, that you have 20% participation in music, and your graduation rate at that school is 75%. I'm just throwing numbers out there. And you go to this other school in this other district where their music participation is 50% and their graduation rate is 98%. Right there, that's a perfect start for a needs assessment. And data doesn't lie. And that's where you can use data. Administrators want to see data. This is data driven, and I encourage everybody to look at this. So when I hover over some of these states, you can see California, they've been collecting data since 2014. And Bob said they just uploaded the new data from 2019 in January of this year. When I click on California, it comes up to this. So right now in California, there's 3,839 schools. The enrollment's a little over 3 million. And there's 1.2 million that are involved in arts of some form, about 40%. And 68,000 no arts enrollment. But in this bar up here, you can do all kinds of stuff. You can compare. Let's just see how strong my internet connection is on this Thursday before Memorial Day. Let's see if you can look at, I just want to go, say you can comparison on here. You can see here different schools in California, who has art, who does not, and basically really get an idea of what's going on. You can get school profiles. You can do I just implore everybody, it's amazing the amount of data. So it really is what you can see here. Okay, Amador High has 7% in music and 33% in visual arts, 15% in theater, 2% in dance. And so it drills down and drills down. So you can really get some great information from this site. And again, they have 22 areas that states that they have right now, and they're working on more. And their hope is to have at least 40 some states, I think, Heather, by 2022. But I encourage everybody, and again, this link will be that we'll share with you, that Jen will share with you in the PDF. But I implore everybody to use this and really get an idea of your school's going to be in here, and you're going to be able to see how you compare to everybody else, and maybe use that as a start of your needs assessment.
Yeah, data is really the key to putting together your needs assessment and your ask, because, like Dave said, it's visual. It's something that administrators like to see. Obviously, you can do comparisons. Everything that Dave just mentioned. It's just a very powerful tool, and we just want to make sure that you're aware of it. For the states that don't have the green filled in, which was that they had full data, there's some blue ones where there's partial data. So even that can be helpful. Like we can show Texas.
Texas will launch in 2020.
Yep.
Oklahoma, same thing. Kansas, 2020. So there's going to be data coming for these other states.
Yeah, try one of the ones that's gray, because even on those ones, there's a little bit of data.
No, there isn't
publicly available, or at least when they're planning to get it going.
Yeah. So anyway, we just encourage you. This is unbelievable information you as an educator could use in your fight or whatever to keep music in your school with your administration. Because it's going to be especially important. There's no doubt this next year. And again, as Heather said, for the wellness of the kids coming in, music is even more important now than ever on that. So we're going to go back to here. And you know what? Well, we have kind of a break for a second. Jesse, do we have any questions that we want to?
Yeah, I think this would be a good time to take a couple questions. So let me throw a few to you. There are questions about the applications of both Title IV and C.A.R.E.S Act funding to the following types of educational organizations. So could you briefly just go over one more time how they differ in application to colleges and universities, nonprofits, small businesses, if there is any application there, and if there are any restrictions on funding to areas of the U.S. like Puerto Rico, non-states?
So, Heather, I'll jump in here a little bit, and you can tag team on me. Yeah. So, small businesses, no, that's going to be part of a separate, the PPP or whatever, though, separate funding for the COVID-19. This wouldn't have anything to do with small business. So that's one thing. Title IV-A is only for K through 12 public school education. Charter schools are part of that, but a private school would not be able to access those funds for that. However, we did find out through the C.A.R.E.S Act, which is the one-time funding right now, 13.2, that public and non-public schools could apply for it if the non-public school was a nonprofit. So that would be, tell you on that. And the application process, we know for the C.A.R.E.S Act that the Department of Education for the federal government says once you apply, you will have an answer in 3 days. 3 days on this, that they said they will give you an answer. The Title IV-A is a little bit more longer tail process of doing and applying. With the C.A.R.E.S Act, the government was really took out a lot of the obstacles. And it was, I think, Heather, it's only a 4-page application for the C.A.R.E.S Act to do. It's short, and you can get an answer in 3 days. And it's very broad, very broad. So it could be used for, like I said, that HERF, higher education institutions. It could be used there. And then the one we talked about for for the regular education, that $13.2 billion could be used for that. That's basically K through 12 education on that. So,
yeah. So Title IV, just think about it it's for K to 12 public, and it's year over year, whereas C.A.R.E.S Act has multiple layers. It's elementary, it's elementary and middle and high school, then it's also higher ed, which has actually already been dispersed, and it's intended to support students. Yeah. And that's a one-time thing.
Yeah. Remember the Title IV-A is that's why we're kind of emphasizing on this, that this is going to be around next year and the year after and the year after, where the C.A.R.E.S Act is this one time by July 1st. If you don't do anything, it's not going to happen. You are not going to get any money from the C.A.R.E.S Act.
So there could be a case where you may have someone applying for both, correct?
Oh, exactly. Yeah.
I would. Yes, absolutely. I mean, one of the things for us is the C.A.R.E.S Act. We had like Anaheim Elementary School District, and they shared instruments. They had let kids do this. So one of their case needs assessment for the C.A.R.E.S Act was to get additional instruments, so each child would have an instrument. Some schools are doing it where they're buying mouthpieces so that each child has their own mouthpiece and they don't have to share those. So and that's through the C.A.R.E.S Act to do that, because it's definitely relevant through that. So we've seen that as well.
All right. How about to schools in Puerto Rico? Are there any restrictions on funding?
I don't think so, because Puerto Rico is officially, part of the United States. So no, I mean,
I believe, it would be on their, it's not the state, but it would be on how they relate to the Department of Education. So whatever that connection is, it would come through there. So I don't know if we would call it a state representative, but whoever their Department of Education representative is, would be able to help connect those dots.
So the person asking from Puerto Rico, it would just be asking that person if Puerto Rico falls under ESSA as far as a federal law for music for public school education. And if not, we can do some research and get back to that person as well on that. So sorry, we couldn't give you a definitive.
Here's one that just came over from Sarah Mulder. She asked, when looking to apply, I assume that this is one application per district. She asked, should we try to incorporate multiple things, or can there be more than one application per district?
Yes, we're pretty sure that yes, you can do more than one application per district, although I think the best way to go is to coordinate to make sure that it's clear and you're not overlapping in areas. So this is where you want to work with a visual and performing arts coordinator for the district and see where you fit into that picture.
Yeah.
Here's a general question. Do you have to be a low-income school district to access Title IV funding?
Absolutely not. Title I is a separate column, and Title I is a completely separate stream of funding. So you can be both a Title I and a Title IV recipient, or you can not be a Title I recipient and you can be a Title IV recipient. It's intended to increase access to music and music education for all students and not just students who are in Title I schools. If it's going to strengthen a program that's already doing well, great. Expanding it to be more inclusive, to be more robust. That's what this is intended to do.
Yeah.
There are some other questions about specific limitations or restrictions in certain areas. So I think you noted earlier that there was a restriction on technology of 15%. Is that correct? In terms of how the money is allocated?
Yeah,
and then
you can speak to that.
So there are there's three buckets, Jesse, on that. So well-rounded, and then safe and security was another 20%. So security for the school, all that type of stuff. And then the last one, the third one was that involved technology where, we're at maximum 15% is used on technology. The other 45 could be used in any of those three buckets. So you could disperse it amongst the other things. And that's what we're talking about. If somebody had a pretty good needs assessment, they could shift 45% of that up to the well-rounded education and move that up to get where they could get 65% of the funding to go for that, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So that's on a regular year. And
yes,
it was just announced in whatever blur last few weeks, in the last few weeks, that they have lifted that technology cap for this year. So that's got both good and potentially bad implications for music, but that makes it just even more important that music teachers are out there and part of the conversation about why music needs to be funded in the Title IV ask. And not all going to Chromebook technology, but let's include things like music notation software and instruments and things that are going to help build the music programs.
Yeah.
I got a couple more for you.
Sure.
Is music therapy programs included in these funding packages, or does it depend on where the music therapy program is housed? It has to be at one of the types of institutions that qualify, correct?
Correct. So I'm not familiar with too many music therapy programs. I mean, as far as an educational program for like training music therapy instructors at the higher ed level, it wouldn't go towards that. But if music therapy is a part of a K-12 program, it would.
Yeah. So like a music therapy program inside of a charter school that's inapplicable.
Correct.
Yes.
And are there any special programs or any special parts of these funding bills that are reserved for students with disabilities or programs that serve students with disabilities?
That is a separate law, just like Title I. There are separate laws, and I think The disability part falls under Title II. I'd have to check on that, but there are already separate dollars allocated within ESSA for disabilities. That is addressed in a separate part, but what's the program, Heather, that is started out of Arizona?
Oh, United Sound.
United Sound. So that's a program where high school kids teach kids that may have a handicap or something like that, where they involve them, and the money can definitely go towards that program within the school for that.
That's like a side-by-side program that both benefit the music student in the regular program as well as the United Sound student with some kind of disability. So that kind of program can definitely be added with using Title IV funding. But as far as I'll say that it's a way to get something started. But looking long term, you'd want to try and get a program like that as a part of the regular budget.
So Jesse, one of the questions that comes up. So everybody, kind of get in your head. A Title IV-A is a starting block for a program, because you have to apply year after year. We get some questions. Well, could it go towards salaries of teachers? Well, yeah, it could the first year, but then you're reapplying for the second year, and that's where the first year, to show the benefit that your program has done, that hopefully then you can convince your administrator in your district to incorporate that program in the regular budget for the school. Title IV-A is really meant to kind of jumpstart a program, to show its significance and show its impact, and then hopefully it does get built into the regular budget of the school. Because it has to be asked for year after year, salary would not be something that we would kind of recommend that being, because it's not for sure that you're going to get it the next year with that. So just want to pull that out there.
Thank you. And I think that actually answers the last question or in part maybe answer the last question that I was going to ask. And this may be a situation that a lot of teachers are finding themselves in, but the issue where districts may be planning to eliminate some part or all of a music program due to shortfalls in tax revenues caused by this crisis. So, how would you propose that a teacher in a similar situation work with their administration to try to use these funds to get them to reconsider?
Yeah, this is where the needs assessment really does make a difference, because you want to come to the table. I mean, it is a difficult year. There's no way to look at that without saying how are we going to pursue this next year. But all we can do is go forward as music educators and in the music education community and say how important music is to the well-being of students, to fulfilling the ESSA well-rounded part of the law. Title IV is a separate column of money. So is the C.A.R.E.S Act. And, we're just trying to encourage music teachers to go out there and to be part of it and explain that to the administration. There's going to be some hard conversations that those administrators have to have looking at the budget. But if we don't say anything, you want to say something.
You want to say something. And I would start to answer that person's question as well. I would start with the C.A.R.E.S Act, because the C.A.R.E.S Act is specifically came up because of COVID-19 on that. And then to Heather's point, the needs assessment is so important. The socioeconomic, the well-being of the children. Again, it's over and over. Instead of cutting music programs, this is something that should be kept to keep these kids grounded coming back to school. Mm-hmm. Again, study after study, truancy when music programs are in, truancy goes down on it. President Obama instituted the turnaround arts programs. And I've been to some of those schools in Washington, D.C., where they were 1% of of school, and they brought in art and music teachers to those schools, and within 2 years, the average grade point average or whatever was up significantly. Truancy went down because kids wanted to participate in dance or in music and be part of that. So it was, again, it just showed, data showed that it definitely makes a huge impact. So.
Yeah, and we know that everybody listening here today, I mean, we know the effects of music and music education.
Yeah.
And we want to help you with the tools to explain that to people who are not necessarily as close to it as we are, and why you're doing it, and why it's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, there's study after study after study showing the benefits of music making. So anyway, this is, so Heather or Jesse, anything else here? Or
no, I think this would be a good time, to continue with the resources.
So this is a kind of a case study. This is a friend of mine, Jenna, who's a band director in Central Coast. I forgot to invite her to this. So Jenna, I'm using your picture here, my dear. So she's a band director there, and they use funds here to outfit their music program. Is a perfect case study for that. On that, and then I'm just going to let Heather talk about. These are some great resources that we have for everybody.
Absolutely, yeah. Yamaha, we have an educator blog called Yamaha Educator Suite, and this is all available there. But just directly from this presentation, our friends at NAFME, we work very closely with them, and we would love for you to check out their Title IV toolkit. They have another site called Everything ESSA, and then ESSA in plain English. People absorb information different ways, so it's a lot of the same information explained either in some detail, middle detail, or just the broad brushstrokes, kind of whatever you need to get conversations going, to get your own head around what this is. So NAFME has some tremendous resources, so please go there and get their tools, as well as the NAM Foundation. Shout out to Mary Larson, who has guided us through how we can help teachers on this topic. They have wonderful resources as well called 3 Steps to Accessing Title IV, and also the Joint Support Music Coalition. Anybody can join that. Just join the people around you who want to see music education be successful. The Arts Data Project, which we shared earlier, that's Bob Morrison's project with the data points. Please see that website and go through it and get lost in the data and come back up and see where you are.
And Heather, before we leave this page too, so Mary Larson from National Association of Music Merchants, most people have heard of that organization. Eric Abel as well from that organization, Claire. They all do an incredible job there. But I also can't forget Lynn Tuttle is a wealth of knowledge for NAFME. She is so incredible as far as knowledge. Everybody kind of take a look at who she is on that. And she's helped us out where districts, we couldn't answer the questions. We brought in Lynn and Mary, and they were able to talk through the district on how to get through things. So we can help connect the dots on some of that stuff. And the last one, Bob Morrison from the Data Arts Project, is just the incredible resources that they're doing. I mean, if you went to an administrator and said, yeah, music's good because it's fun and it makes you feel good, they're going to go, okay, tell me more. Give me examples. Tell me why. And this is really this project, as Heather said, is a wealth of information you can get.
Okay, I think kind of getting towards the end here. This is our own blog, and we'd love for you to come and visit us here. We have tons of resources for teachers. This is our main article on Title IV funding, and every link that we've talked about in this presentation is in this article. So if you kind of want a one-stop shop, we've put it all in this particular article for you. All the links to NAFME, all the links to NAM, the links to the Department of Education, and even to the law, to the ESSA law itself. If you want to read it, it's all linked in this article. And we have a newsletter. We'd love for you to join us there. You can join, take a picture of that QR code, and you can also join us in our Facebook group for questions, discussion, seeing what other Yamaha artists and educators are up to. We'd love to see you there. And any other questions that we can answer while we're here, we'd love to take those.
Yeah, that's really the end for us of our presentation. So Jesse, if you got some more questions, we can.
I think we've answered them all, actually.
Oh, good.
But what I have done is I've put a link to download a PDF version of this presentation in the chat, so that, and I've also been pasting the links that you've been showing, the Arts Ed Data Project, and I just pasted the other ones that Heather just pointed out. And if you'd like to download this presentation so that you can reference it as you are doing your needs assessment or applying for your funding, check out that link. We will also send a wrap up to everyone who registered for this event that includes those materials as well. And a link to watch this event again if you'd like to check out some of that information. I would be remiss to not promote some other virtual events. Next Wednesday evening at 5 p.m. we are going to be doing a Young Composer Showcase virtual roundtable that will feature some of our 2020 Young Composer Showcase selectees, along with their mentors, including jazz composers Greg Yasinitsky, Socrates Garcia, Roxy Koss, and the coordinator of our Young Composer Showcase program, Ryan Midaw. They'll all be together on a roundtable to talk about young composers, jazz composition and arranging, and also our Young Composer Showcase program. We will send those materials out to you as we have been with these. You'll also receive a follow-up to this webinar, as I mentioned, with some links and the ability to ask any follow-up questions that you have of David and Heather, and we'll pass those along to them. So before we split today, please check us out on the web, jazzednet.org. Join if you're not a member. And I would especially like to thank David Jewell and Heather Mansell for being here with us today and presenting some really important information. Thank you, David and Heather. We really appreciate your time and your expertise on this topic.
Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Jen. Great organization.
Thank you,
Yes,
Jen.
and special thanks to Yamaha for loaning you to us today, and also for all you do to support our organization, our conference, and our initiatives.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, we'll see everyone on the next live stream.
Thanks.